You do look beautiful.
Oh,
so don't second guess those bangs. They're gorgeous.
Okay.
When a girl says, I can't wait for these bangs, you didn't say go away. You said grow out?
Grow out, yeah.
Great. What do you mean? Like
they have to grow.
Right. But then what happens to it? They just go off to, is there some sort of biology where they just naturally go off to the side? I guess I don't understand how you get rid of bangs by growing bangs out. That's probably a really stupid question.
So she took part of my hair,
okay,
brought it to the front, cut them.
Okay.
And now I'm ready for them to grow out. So we're going to grow them out and then
push them to the side.
Put them back into my hair.
Okay, so just physics and gravity.
It's like instead of like I'm bringing them forward, they're just going to go to like where my hair would normally be.
Can I also ask, so why have the bangs and then why pivot away from the bangs? Or is bangs just a stepping stone on the highway of wherever else you want to go with your hair? I guess what is the ultimate end goal with the hair?
I got bangs because I needed something different, but I didn't want to grow my hair out. And I had lost a lot of my hair. So I had a bunch of wispies. And so we put the bangs in to like blend it. And now I'm over it.
Sure. Who does your hair, by the way?
Emily.
What's her last name?
Wells.
And where does she work?
That's a lot of detail.
I just want to give her a quick shout out. Shout out to Emily. You do good work.
She does.
And my wife's name, Emily. Don't get confused on that. Yeah. But exciting day. Not only is election day, so obviously something historical is going to happen. We're going to elect the next president. But we also decided it would be good to take all of that anxiety that is riddled with inside of us, along with the fear and just general concern for the future and well-being of our family, that we would add to that by doing a podcast and starting our very first inaugural episode of our wonderful podcast named
Do We Have To?
Which you came up with, and I think is fantastic, by the way. Marriage podcast, family podcast, everything podcast.
Yeah.
Brought to you by our wonderful Emily here, my wife, and I am Sean, taking you guys on this wonderful journey through, I guess really, we're not taking you through a journey of just marriage, our marriage specifically, and doing it on this fine day where we are electing the president. So I guess probably first things first. I mean, well, can I just go back to the hair just really quick? Okay. And I promise we'll steer. Yeah. So you guys will learn this really quick about Emily and I. Mm-hmm. Emily is good and on the point with things. I am a chase squirrel down the street if I see it type of person. And if I get locked in on something, I'm going to, I gotta get the answer, right? So we don't talk about your hair a lot. I feel like we probably should talk about it more because you do put a lot of time and effort into it. I'm not saying on the podcast. I'm just saying in general.
Oh, I'm very self-conscious about my hair.
Well, it looks lovely. So with that being said, ultimately, does a girl in her mind, because from a guy's perspective, for me, it's a maintenance thing. Like, yes, I want it to look good. I try to put effort into it. But at the end of the day, it's like when I started balding on the top of my head, I was like, this is not worth it. I'm shaving my head.
Right.
That looks normal to me. Looks good. Right.
Right.
So I didn't really have like this progression.
Where it was an adjustment to me.
Right.
And I hated it. It was
also
first,
you saying, I was going to say, just say you didn't like it.
I like it.
Right.
Yeah.
But because you wanted me to pretend I had hair.
I didn't want you to pretend. I just didn't think shaving it was a good look for you.
Well, I'd let the audience, if there will ever be an audience, decide in regards to if you're losing a majority. And I would say, I don't know how well you can see me right now, but if your hair is just growing just around the sides here, kind of creating somewhat of a donut crown of hair around your head, and even that's thin, and then you have literally nothing but shiny skin on the top, do you really have a head of hair, number one? Number two, who are you trying to convince that you have hair? And number three, from a functionality standpoint, it just didn't seem worth it to me for the upkeep of a side of the hair when in reality, I guess it just made sense. I was losing my hair. You need to just go forward with that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
But you didn't like it.
Not at first, no.
Yeah. Mm-mm. How long do you think it took you to get used to it?
Well, I mean, I really don't know because I didn't really have a choice. You just did it and then you kept doing it. So it's not like once you started, you were like, no, I kind of like it. I'm going to grow it back out. And that's what you did. You started shaving your head and then you were shaving your head. And we went through quite a bit of challenges with shaving your head. Do you remember that one razor that like took out like a chunk of your head?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yes. So I feel like now this appropriate story to tell.
Plus here also, we were double our size when it started. And so it wasn't just that you were going bald. It was you were going bald, but then we also had like you had rolls on your head and in your neck, and like hair would get missed. And that was
would look
challenge.
Ridiculous.
Like it took a long time to get like the process down. And then you came into your own kind of with the beard and doing all of that. And then we lost, 100+ pounds each. And, now I feel like you've got your true style down, and I'm working on my style still, but I really don't think I have one. I think I just wear black. And
my style? What would you say my style is?
High school preppy, like 90s preppy.
Fucking spot on.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. That makes me.
But I mean, I feel like that's where you're like
in high school.
Most
What did you
comfortable.
enjoy? Because I loved that period of time in my life. So what did I do? Went right back to Abercrombie and Fitch.
Yeah.
I would say 95% of my wardrobe is Abercrombie and Fitch.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like I own a bunch of clothes, but like I took a hard about face on clothes.
Yeah. And I live in.
Shout out to Abercrombie and Fitch, by the way.
I live in black yoga pants and
you look wonderful. Well, you're starting to live your Lululemon life, which
I don't own anything but this jacket and a pair of shoes.
How many pairs of shoes? And a bag?
Two. I don't have a bag.
Oh, you don't have a bag? Oh, I have the gym bag that I got from work. Yeah. Which is awesome. But you're on your way though. You just committed to this only like a few months ago. And the bag that I do use
is actually my mom's.
That's what I was thinking of. Yeah. But you just committed to Lululemon just a few months ago. We went to the store in the plaza the first time just not too long ago. Yeah.
It's too expensive. I can't commit to it.
So before we go into just a kind of like a background of us, and I can't wait. It's kind of fun doing it this way because it's almost like sitting on a therapy couch, but just being able to get your perspective of what it was like when we first met. I definitely want to talk about those sorts of things. Mm. But you mentioned the thing about me cutting my head, and I actually have completely forgotten about that. Huh. And I think, I don't know, because it was actually a really huge gash on my head, right?
It was traumatic.
Yeah, well, for you, but I don't remember it being that bad, except I knew there was a huge chunk, like you could almost lift it up off my head.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
They do those types of commercials where they're like, oh, you're a real big guy and you have trouble you got a lot of back hair. Here, you take this gigantic fucking broom of a wand and you put this gigantic razor on it.
It looked like a windshield scraper.
Yeah, but will you shave your back or your chest hair with it? And it looked like it was just so safe. And just so easy. They made it seem very easy in the commercials.
Yeah. And
you just have this big bulky guy and he's just going to town and hair's just falling off. And I was just like, oh, that's fantastic. That's exactly what I need, because I have back hair and I hate my back hair. It's like one of my least favorite things about me.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, I'll just start shaving everything with this thing, and just get rid of all of this hair. And I remember in the shower and it's coming off, no problem at all. But as soon as I got up to the top, and granted, to your point, that was almost 200 pounds ago, it got like a fat fold of my top of my head and just slit in. And I was just happened to be kind of like trying to get a part I couldn't get. So I was kind of doing it harder and ripped up a whole piece off my head. Bad. But I didn't get a scar. I don't think I got a scar or anything from that. It's weird because it seemed like a big cut, and I know it was not great. I know I didn't get any stitches or anything, but
it took a really long time to like quit bleeding.
I didn't use it anymore after
no,
that.
we legit threw it away.
I got scared of it because I was like, wow, if you really cut into yourself, you're some serious shit gonna go down here. Yeah, that's exactly right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Just felt like that was something we needed to revisit because that was just one of those things like learned. In passing, right?
Don't always believe what you see on TV.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. No kidding. I learned the lesson. I mean, I'm sure if I would have, I don't think that there was ever a guy using it to shave his head. I think that was specifically meant for the body. So I don't want to take away from the product. I'm sure there's plenty of people that use it. I can't remember the name of it anymore, but it was like some sort of shaving wand thing. And it was working on the body stuff. It's just, I was like, once I cut myself the way I did, I was like, that is a real big fucking industrial size razor. And I am not messing with that anymore.
Yeah. No.
So let's do the easier thing and let's lose 200 pounds.
I don't know. That was easy.
Yeah. So I don't know how we kind of want to necessarily start this, but I guess a quick overview, and you just feel free to fill anything in. And then I've got some great questions for you to kind of lead us up how we met and those sorts of things. But, we just celebrated our 12th wedding anniversary on September 8th.
Yeah. Oh dear. I thought you were going to forget.
No, it's because the month and the day are like one from each other. I mean, I know we got married in September, but I always, it's like
9/8.
Oh, 9/08, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Got married. We've been married for 12 years. We're from the Kansas City area.
Yep.
Go Chiefs. Just came off a victory last night against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Undefeated.
And we are still undefeated. I don't think we'll go the season undefeated. I think there's going to be things we run to. We got to play Buffalo. But I think overall, we're looking good. And welcome Mr. DeAndre Hopkins, by the way. That was fantastic watching that with Dad last night, that game.
Yeah.
But yes, so we're from the Kansas City area. We have 3 children, 2 girls, 1 boy. Boy is the oldest. 3 dogs, 2 dachshunds, 1 half bloodhound, half German shepherd who thinks she's a dachshund. And then the other 2 think they're the size of a German shepherd, personality wise. I'm sure anybody who owns those types of dogs can relate to that.
Yep.
So we kind of, I wouldn't say our origin story is any more interesting than anybody else's, but we definitely, when we found each other, were at different points in our lives.
Yeah,
right?
we were very similar.
But
like
coming
where
off
we were
of,
at.
I think, but got there different ways, right?
Yes.
So I don't know how you want to explain how we met.
Well, we met on CatholicMatch.com.
We did, which I never thought I would be on a religious dating site, although I am Catholic, you are Catholic, we are Catholic. Mm-hmm. But somebody gave it to me as like the person I was seeing, we broke up. We had like a funny little like freedom festival. Like if you ever seen the movie Old School, there's like the Mitch, whatever freedom festival. They did
you
that.
Still have
right?
your button.
I do have that. There was buttons. It was a lot of fun. No knock on the person I was dating previously. It was just somebody, just trying to get the group of friends together and have fun or whatever. Hey, you're on your next stage of life. Those things don't work out and everybody's for the better. Yeah. Moving on.
It wouldn't necessarily be called a freedom festival for just a dating situation though. I think we do owe it to our newly found audience to say that it was a previous engagement.
Well, we got to find an audience to have our newly found audience. But yes, hopefully this newly found audience that potentially listens to the show. Yeah, I did come off being engaged, and it wasn't the only time I was engaged. I wouldn't say I'm a serial engager. I just, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but
you've been engaged.
I've been engaged 3 times, including you, but that you're talking about.
I'm your first wife.
It sounds bad.
So far, the only.
It sounds bad on paper, but if you realize 2 engagements were over 9 years worth of dating in total, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
So
compared to my 1 engagement, which was you.
Right. But yeah, I had long-term relationships from the time of like towards the end of high school through college. And then, took a couple of years off and then had another serious relationship. And those just didn't work out. They're great people and everybody's doing good and all those things are good. Those are, and I think that's a good thing that I hope we can talk about is those are just natural. Like I wouldn't, at the time being at that age, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that can appreciate this or relate to it, but like you kind of like think the world's over, or like you're not doing something right, or you're hard on yourself about it. But honestly, like I look back at it now and I'm like, all those bad things were so great.
Right.
For this is just me talking. All the things that happened got me here, what we're doing right now. So every single thing that happened was totally worth it. And I would do it over again.
You weren't my only relationship. Like I've dated people before and, I was in relationships and I had gotten out of one when I made my profile and I met you. I just never took it past dating.
You dated a lot of red flaggers.
Oh God, yeah.
Right. And then you kind of got in a relationship with somebody on paper who's probably a red flag.
To fix them. Like I was going to be the one to change them.
Oh, you were Belle in Beauty and the Beast.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That makes sense.
Does it make sense? Because
yeah.
Have you ever, okay, so just a quick sidebar here.
Yeah.
they did studies, psychology in Disney, right? And it was one of my favorite. I went to Mizzou. I took this class on Disney because there's a connection to Walt Disney, and they have a whole class dedicated to it. But there was also I took this like psychology in the movies class, and had nothing to do with Disney, but it happened to do with how watching Disney can possibly affect your kids, right?
Yeah.
And so they did this documentary on it. It was insane. I mean, it would never stop me from watching Disney, and it would never stop me from having our kids watch Disney. But it is good to know that there's some things that kids pick up on that I can talk to about. And I've done it. You've heard me kind of go on my little rant with the girls when we're watching Beauty and the Beast, when he's screaming at her and stuff.
Sidebar. Remember the first time we watched Sleeping Beauty with the girls, and it was and probably still is my favorite princess movie.
It's very dark.
But oh my goodness, yeah. Like I don't remember it being that brutal when I was growing up. Like I really just remember Prince Philip dancing in the woods and then Aurora coming, and like, I don't know, the birds and the squirrels with the hats and the boots. Like, I mean, that's what I remember when I think about that movie, not the I don't even know what they are, like flying bat gargoyle things, like legit.
The dragon seems pretty scary.
People.
Yeah. Oh,
like, yeah. I don't remember any of that growing up, but I was like, ooh.
Maleficent's the bad guy. Yeah. She didn't fuck around in that movie.
No.
And it's so funny because back then I remember you used to talk about how I liked all these dark things and you only like princesses and princes. And I remember watching it. I'm like, this is the darkest Disney shit I've ever seen.
That was when
I remember looking over at you and being like,
that should have been my parents' first sign that I was going to be an emo kid.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Didn't end well.
Yeah. Well, and to your point though, yeah. So I assume most kids don't pick up on these things, but I think what they showed was it created some subconscious relationship norms, especially. Well, I guess it doesn't. You don't have to say opposite sex because it doesn't matter. Same sex relationship, opposite sex relationship. It's just relationships in general. The dynamic where they were asking these little 4 and 5-year-old kids questions, and it wouldn't be like direct questions like, "Hey, if you're in this relationship, what would you do?" It would be, "Hey, Sylvie, if you're in this relationship with or if you're friends with Belle, what would you tell her when Beast yells at her the way he does?" And she literally stopped. She's like, "Well, I would just tell her, you have to work to help to make him better. And that he's a prince and he's a really handsome prince underneath. And it's your," I think she said duty. And I think she was like, "It's your duty to help him become that prince." And I was like, oh my gosh, I remember even watching it then. But that's where those conversations that I sit with the girls, I'm like, I just want you to know it's great. I'm not saying anything bad about this movie. However, if somebody speaks to you that way, it is not okay. And if that's something that's a consistent thing that causes harm, you got to get away from it. And I'm probably just like, I can only imagine what they're thinking. We told our girls,
like, that man is shit. Like, get out of that. Like, he's
but then not everything about the character is bad. And it's not like it's a bad movie. I love the movie.
Yeah.
I love the live action movie. And it's not that. It was just that subconscious planting of like, well, if you're treated this way, you just hang in there and do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely not.
And that's all it is. As long as you can separate, in my mind, as long as I can separate that and make sure they know that piece and then just let them enjoy the movie, we're good. Now, what they thought about that when I've said that, I have no idea. But
I don't know. I like to think that we're raising 3 tiny little modern day feminists, but I could be wrong.
Well, we only have 2 girls and we have a boy.
Seamus can be a feminist.
Oh, I mean, I know he can be a feminist. Well, okay, sure. I had to take responsibility for saying that. Wow. I'm part of the problem. I'm sorry.
Whoa.
You're right. I fucked up there. Sorry about that. Yes, I all 3 of those kids, I just want them to be as good to people, as inclusive as possible, but at the same time, have a good, healthy boundary up. I think that's the biggest thing. Honestly, if we can teach them healthy boundaries in some sort of way, well, then I think a lot of the other stuff takes care of itself.
Right. Well, and I think that like modern day feminism is honestly being a humanist, like just being a good human. There should not be a man's way of doing this and a woman's way of doing this and a man's, line and a women's line. Like everybody should just be equal.
Yeah. Well, when you say equal is like everybody doing the same thing the exact same way. I think for us, at least what wasn't working when we were first together, which was, to your point, like trying to create some sort of normality based off gender norms of what we've grown up with to create roles within the household. Yeah. And then once we started, I think what started working for us, and both of us, I think, got less frustrated with ourselves, which then equaled to being less frustrated with each other, was when we just recognized what we're good at, what we're not good at.
Yeah.
And then just went with that.
And I think that's a huge part of also just growing up. When we got together and we got married, we were really, I think, young. At the time, I was like the last one of my friends to get married, and to start having kids. And I was...
Are you 25 or 26? I know you were like two grades from each other, right? Mm-hmm. But you just turned 26, right?
We had just turned 26 when we got married. I was 28. I was 25 when we met. Yeah. I was 26 when we got married. Yeah. So to back up really fast, we met online.
Yes. Sorry. Yes.
And I think you did yours in a sober fashion. I may or may not have had some adult beverages, and some girlfriends helped me make a profile.
No, I just made a profile and was just interested in.
Was it Zach that gave you that?
No, we actually got Uncle Zach. Zach did it after, and that's how he had met Kylie.
No.
I'm pretty sure. They didn't meet on Catholic Match. No. But you're right. Zach did get on Catholic Match, though.
Yeah.
And I may have, honestly, I may have created the account. That's right. I may have made the account, helped Zach make, he did his own account, but I think we hung out together and he created his account. And then eventually I'd done it too.
Yeah.
After, when somebody gave me like the free month or whatever. And it wasn't Zach that did that. I want to say.
I don't know. But anyway.
Yeah.
I created a profile and you talked to me like that night that I made my profile. Like you sent me a message. On there?
Yeah. You just gotten on there? Oh, I didn't know that. You just showed up. It makes you...
It showed me like people that I was automatically matched with, like I think any other dating site does. Odd statement for me. I didn't join any other dating app because the way that the common denominator in what ended my relationships, besides the fact that they were not good people, was my faith and my religion. And I like to think I take my faith pretty seriously. I'm pretty, as you like to call it, devout, but I
call you uber Catholic.
Yeah. But I knew that was something that was missing from every relationship that I was in. None of them had a faith-based foundation as a human being. So I wanted that. I needed that common ground. Mm-hmm. And so that was the first dating profile that I ever made. And you messaged me the first night that I ever did it. And you were the only person that I talked to. And we went out on a date to Tomfooleries at Zona Rosa.
Yeah, we had met there because, I think we actually talked on the phone like a day after or whatever when we decided we were going to get a drink. Well, I think you acted really weird about that when I called you. I think you were surprised that I called you. I think this was right when we were getting into that period of time. I know we didn't grow up with it. We grew up using the phone all the time. But we're starting at that period of time where people were definitely much more comfortable messaging and texting. Because I remember there was some hesitancy when I called you just to ask how you were doing.
Yeah.
But to be able to hold a conversation, I just think, to me, it was like, it's kind of not awkward, but like just showing up and then starting in. I wanted to at least be able to somewhat talk to you beforehand. And I was actually talking to somebody else. I was talking to two people on the dating site, not seeing two people, but there was a lady that lived in Omaha who I just never met her. And then there was you, and it's just getting, you're not really, I guess some people just go in and start a relationship, but this was really more getting to know.
Yeah.
I can only, though it's kind of funny because you say these things like, oh, I wanted this commonality and, my faith's very important to me. What about my profile said that was going to be something that you were going to feel fully satiated from, I guess?
I actually remember your profile all that much, except that it was a picture of you and one of our friends' kids.
Oh, that's right. You thought I had a child.
And,
that's right. I totally forgot about it.
It was on a Catholic
Genius
Match
by me.
website. And the relationship that I had just gotten out of, he had a daughter, and the relationship previous to that one also had a child. And so like that was kind of like my trend for some stupid reason. I was dating people that had kids and had been in marriages or divorce, where like the one right before you, he had a kid in high school. And so like it was just, I wasn't opposed to dating somebody with a child. And I don't know, you looked nice.
I guarantee if I looked at that, I guarantee if I looked at that picture, I would hate everything about it. I'm sure I had my thinning hair going. Sure, I had probably my
I'm pretty sure you were wearing
low-end
a hat.
corporate outfit. No, I guarantee I had like a button-up shirt and some just slacks, and I looked probably Slavish. I can only imagine what I thought looked good back then. Now, have you seen pictures of me back when I was younger?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I just it's nothing bad. I'm not trying to be self-loathing by any means, but it's just one of those things.
You didn't have a lot of great haircuts when you were growing up.
No, I didn't. I just didn't. I didn't have style like you. See, and I didn't understand. I didn't understand the bangs. I didn't understand any of that stuff. But with that being said, the reason why I asked that is because if you looked at my profile, you know, I am Catholic and our children go to Catholic school.
Yep.
And I'm very supportive of the Catholic that you are.
Yep.
But as you know, we do differ as far as
greatly.
What does, and I don't think in a negative way.
No.
We do differ greatly though in what I feel is being like, not that's going to sound wrong, being Catholic, but like
there's a balance.
Religion in general to me, I feel like is a tool that, you know, you can utilize to develop, you know, values and really learn how to be empathetic and treat people really well.
Mm-hmm.
And where I don't do as well with it is when it turns into kind of a rule set approach to life that guides maybe personal and political views and those sorts of things.
It shouldn't be black and white. It should be
there
gray.
You go. That's probably a much better way without alienating Buddy to say it. So I certainly don't want to come off.
It needs to be a facilitator, not a dictator. Does that make sense?
And I'm very supportive. Like if that's your way, that I completely support that. If you're not causing me or anybody else, if you're not causing harm with it, support and practice however you want to. I just know the reason I say that you and I have to be compatible coming into a relationship together. I was kind of curious of that, how that goes. Cause there's still times where we'll be talking about something and I'll go off on a rant, not a bad one or anything, but just go off talking about, you know, things getting overly politicized, or we seem to be focused more on a rule rather than where are we at in society and where are we at in modern history, and how should we approach, or how should the Catholic Church actually support that? Right. And we can talk about millions of things, gay marriage, abortion, all those sorts of things. Like we're not where we were when the Bible was made. So, you know, and there's just so many things like that. I think we could be much more, I say this as a member of the Catholic Church that wants to have the best Catholic Church possible. I think that we could be much more modernized in general with our approach to how we treat humanity. And I think that might create betterment overall, which I think makes more people come to it. But that's just me. We can talk about that another time. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to get into a different religious rant. However, with that being said, it was kind of interesting because when we did sit down and get to talking. Number one, you didn't talk a whole lot, and I am not, especially back then, because I was just always a naturally anxious person.
Well, I know now that you don't like silence.
Well, and a lot of that is my own mental, like at the time, untreated mental health issues, like sitting in silence, I just would overthink, right? And so I'd like noise on in the background, noise on the TV, noise for me, but you didn't say a whole lot initially. And that's just you being more of a shy person, I assume.
Yeah, I'm very much an introvert.
So I just talked a lot.
You did. You would ask a question and then you would almost answer it. You interrupted me in answering questions a lot when it was something that you could take and run with and like tell a story. Like if I mentioned something, you were like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay.
Well, it's probably also the ADHD. You probably triggered something in my mind, and I'm like, I can't forget it. I've got to say it. Yeah, I'm surprised you went on another date with me. I'm surprised you're married.
I went home and I told my roommate that I was never going to see him again because he clearly did not like me because he wouldn't let me talk. And then you called me, I think that night or the next day. And
I remember calling Connor, my brother, and telling him that I really liked you and that, you know, it was a pretty clear decision. It didn't make sense to continue to talk. I was like, I was getting to know another girl, but met her and I really like her. And, you know, you're just at the point when you've dated as much as you, and I'm sure other people can attest this too. You go through relationships and they don't work out. You're either learning something from them and you're moving forward and kind of figuring out what you want or you're not. And there's definitely periods in my life where I wasn't doing a good job of that. I think I was at a point there, at least one of the few things I think where I was more optimal at my younger age was getting to that point of kind of at least kind of understanding what I wanted in a partner and what I wanted in a marriage. And if I wasn't getting that, it was time to move forward.
I think we were both in that point because I was not going to waste my time with dating just to date. Like I was ready for a commitment. I was ready for like the long term. I wanted to get married. I wanted to have kids. And I wasn't just going to put up with crap to put up with crap and see where it went. Like I had gotten burned pretty badly for the last time like in my own brain. And I wasn't just going to have a relationship to be in a relationship anymore and see where it could go or what it could grow into. I knew what I wanted and I needed somebody that was going to be on that same page too. So I think that was also something that we had both had in common that we didn't really know right when we started dating, but we quickly came into that. And I think that's one reason why we did click, why we did work, because we had failed in our other relationships before and they failed for the reasons that they did. And we wouldn't be the people we were if they hadn't. I don't think you would be the partner that you are if you hadn't been engaged 2 other times or been in those long-term relationships the way that you were. And I don't think I would be the partner I am if I didn't go through some of the relationship stuff that I did. So I think every relationship has its purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Every person that's brought into your life has a purpose for some reason or another. It's just, what are you going to take from it when they're leaving or when it's time to leave for them? So
yeah, no, I completely agree. And I mean, I don't have anything bad to say about anybody. The other 2 people I was engaged with, they're really good people, and I don't really know them anymore. But one I was friends with when we were young and through school and stuff. And I think she's a great person, and the other person's a great person too. And no, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I obviously want to be respectful of them, but I was no picnic to deal with as a human being during that time. You know what I mean? So my hope is that even though obviously those relationships didn't end on a high note, they ended in breakups. We both all learned from it and everybody's doing great. And, you know, I will just say I'm appreciative of those human beings because like you said, I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for them, the good and the bad, you know what I mean? So no, very, very appreciative of that, but then also very appreciative I got here and got to meet you because I think the difference, honestly, what I think the difference is that
really fast.
No timeouts.
Your camera died.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Again?
Yeah. So just time out really fast.
Oh no.
I don't know why.
That's a bummer. Is it not plugged in properly? I don't get it. Obviously, I mean, no, it's plugged in. I don't know what the deal is. That's really unfortunate. That's okay. Like it won't. Don't worry about it. We'll tell you what we'll do is we'll just do audio going forward, and then what is it? Did it turn back on? Wonder why it turns off. I don't know. Maybe there's a timer on it or something.
If there is, we got to figure it out and get it turned off.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, keep going.
No, you're good. Well, I would say too, probably there's going to be a weird edit in there, and we had some technical difficulty. So
Sorry.
Transparency for anybody listening or watching. We buy these wonderful cameras, and they're fine. They're good cameras. They're Sony cameras. They don't sponsor the show. So
no, we have 0 sponsors.
Yeah, that's right.
But if you would like to sponsor us,
we're getting way ahead of ourselves. Let's just have fun making a podcast, and then we'll go from there if anybody actually ever listens to it. But for some reason, they keep turning off. So we're in the process of getting adapters. We had them hooked up to chargers. For some reason, it seems like on an hour, it's got to be on a timer.
I have no idea.
See, these are those wonderful little detective things when you're in a relationship or in a couple that you end up trying to figure out or get overly focused on and spend a bunch of your time. We have talked probably an unnecessary amount of time about why we think that camera dies on us, because yours does not.
Probably.
So it's got to be a timer.
I don't know.
Right? Anyway, long story short, to get us back on track though.
Yeah.
We were just talking about in general. What I was saying is that what I think's great about us is that there's not, and this is going to sound bad, there's not anything great, in the sense that we're great because we decided at one point in time, and this is what I think's great about this. There is nothing, and I want to make sure this is said, just because we want to do this project, this podcast, and
yeah, we've talked about it for a long time.
We're going to talk about our relationship. We in no way have any thought that we've done something in a way that we're doing it the right way.
Got
right.
it.
As a matter of fact, quite the opposite. The goal of this is not only to talk about things that we enjoy and that hopefully other people will enjoy hearing, but also talk about our relationship and things that haven't gone well and have gone well. And hopefully either of those things, you can find some relatability in it, or you take it away and you make it better for yourself. But I think that's where you and I were able to, because we'll talk about tough times that we've gone through, because we've not always been where we're ready to jump on a podcast and talk about our marriage.
Even right now in our lives, I don't know that we're not going through something that isn't relatable. Like, people probably think, God, you have all this going on in your life and you're going to do this. Like, you just add to the flame, We don't do anything half-assed. We don't do anything the easy way. We always do it the hard way. But
even if that's and sometimes not at a detriment where we shouldn't have done it that way. And that's where you want people to, I'd prefer people know about it and they hear these stories, and maybe it's something that can benefit them. And I think that's great. And then for the most part, I like making people laugh, and I love talking about things we enjoy. And those are things in upcoming podcasts, we'll talk about things like, what are we reading? What are we watching? What are we listening to? What do we,
where's my emotional cup of coffee coming from?
We have been hitting local coffee spots in Kansas City, and we want to talk about those places because they have great people working in them, and it's really cool independently owned coffee spots. I want to do a segment of this day in history. I always find, for me, something that always helps me get through, not a bad day or anything, but just starts off my day putting things in perspective, is figuring out, did it die again?
It did.
Okay, so let's just do audio. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Okay. It's not worth it.
Okay.
We'll figure out the adapter thing for it, and it'll be fine.
Okay.
I don't want to derail this because I'm enjoying this, and we just need to move forward with it. Okay. We'll release the audio. We'll figure out what we want to do with the video. So don't worry about that at all. But what I was saying is I'd like to do, a day in history. You find out all these things that happen every day, a day that may be mundane to you, or a day that maybe has something negative to you. It could always be worse. And so, for example, 2 days ago when we were talking about it, I started looking up on that. If you're having any problems with your friends right now, if anybody out there is, or having any issues with any types of friendships or relationships, I read that back in the 70s, and I can't remember if it was 78 or 79, so forgive me, but basically the president of South Korea was murdered by the head of his security division, which was also his best friend.
Oh.
Yeah. Yep.
Well,
so see, again, you could be having some drama with your friend and arguing, and then you see that and you're like, well, shit, it ain't that bad. Right. So no, just enjoyable, fun things like that, and just continue to grow the show going forward. But I think the biggest thing for you and I, for at least from my perspective, this is not defining this, but from my perspective is that we are great because we recognized we weren't great. And we made an about face by, I don't know, just trying to understand what we needed to work on and just go from there and just try to not change ourselves, but just understand who we are as individuals and then have that empathy and respect for each other on how to approach that particular situation. Yes. And I don't think if we figured that out, I don't think we'd be together.
No, we definitely, I mean, we've done marriage counseling, we've done individual counseling, and I personally think therapy saved not just my life in general. I think it saves yours. And I think marriage counseling has saved our marriage. I think therapy is something that everyone should do. I used to be somewhat ashamed that we have 2 children in therapy. But now I actually am proud of it because we're instilling that priority for themselves.
Yeah, for their mental health.
So early on. And it's going to be a tool in their life as they get older instead of a last resort reach. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
and
reaction rather than they're doing maintenance and self-care, where as opposed to they have a problem that gets out of control and then they find themselves, potentially have to take medicine, going to see somebody and then trying to work through the process while they're dealing with a major issue, which is that's how my mental health journey was. And that's how people unfortunately lose their lives. That's how people lose relationships, jobs, all of those sorts of things. It is because of that. And I think, but to anybody who's been in that situation, we live in a country, in my opinion, this is just an opinion. This is not fact, but just based on what I've seen, in my opinion, we live in a country that's just not, it's getting better. I do think it's getting better as far as prioritization. But, when we were growing up as kids and our parents, like nobody was designed to know how to deal with that because it was kind of looked like, and I don't think it was looked in that way to be mean, but it was looked at like you're not handling it well or like a weakness because I don't think anybody knew what to do with it.
No.
And then you can go into the whole thing of pharmaceutical companies and what they've done with treating depression and anxiety. That's nothing we need to get into, but you have that whole other thing that kind of exasperates that as well. And it's just one of those things. It is a fucking shit show navigating those waters. And I think to your point, and I'm really glad, we ran into our issues we have with our middle child. And then now proactively, we're just putting our other kids in counseling just to check in and see how they're doing. And sure enough, there's always something you could be working on or doing, or something that it doesn't necessarily mean that we would think it was something, oh my gosh, that's traumatic, whatever. Trauma's trauma because it's the way your brain perceives what's happening. And that's something I've had to figure out and learn. Like, we try to define trauma in like, well, if you see somebody get hit by a car in front of you, that's traumatic. Or as opposed to, I scream, I go off unnecessarily about something stupid because I'm not having a good day. And I bring that into how I'm reacting to the kids doing something that not necessarily they should be doing or shouldn't be doing or whatever it is, but I yell at them and that's just burned in their memory. Well, it's traumatic memory, regardless. I have to take accountability for that. Right.
Right.
Those are things that we're progressing in. We're just not anywhere there. So I completely can understand that. But yeah, I completely agree with you that it is one of those things that for us, it's worked. That doesn't necessarily mean that's for everybody. No. But definitely something I would say it does not hurt to try, especially if you're having trouble. For you and I, a big thing was communication. And for me, I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for you. But for me, I bring a lot of things that have happened to me in the past, relationship wise, as an individual, how I feel about myself, how I view my role in our relationship, and take those in. And then those would be what kind of pushes just my everyday reactions or how I would interact with you. And I know that wasn't anything that was going to lead us to having a long-term successful marriage. Didn't mean we'd get necessarily a divorce, but there's plenty of people in the world that aren't necessarily divorced, but aren't happy. And
right. Well, and I think a lot of what's happened and us spiraled after my sister passed away, because we had just had our second child. right after we had our first. So we had a lot of fertility issues, a lot of health issues, me mostly. And we had 2 pretty stressful pregnancies, literally back to back. We had 2 kids within a year, essentially. And we were just struggling as young parents and as a young married couple. And
you were also staying at home
I was
full-time
staying
then.
at home full time.
And I was traveling.
Postpartum, but I was pregnant, but I was postpartum. And then we had our second, and my postpartum never really went away from the first one. It just snowballed, and it was slightly undiagnosed postpartum because it wasn't depression. It was anxiety. And I don't know that they really knew what postpartum anxiety was and how it differed than postpartum depression. They tried to treat it the same, but it's really not. And then my younger sister passed away, and my mental health completely spiraled out of control. I didn't know how to be a mom and a stay-at-home mom, for that matter, with a husband that traveled for a living, which we needed because you were supporting our family.
The role wasn't supposed to be a travel all the time thing. It just turned into it from a project management, relationship management perspective. It required being at all these schools and universities all the time, unfortunately.
And
but nothing we planned for. So it wasn't like we prepared for it as a couple or came up with a plan or anything. We just kind of, unfortunately, which is something I think we've gotten better at. We just and we just, without kind of working on it as a team, figuring out a plan of how to deal with it, we just were like, okay, we're going to deal with it as individuals.
And not together.
Thinking we're dealing with it together.
Well, and like I grew up with my dad traveling for a living, and my mom stayed at home with us, but she worked. So like she was a teacher. We went to school. She went to school. We were home at the same time, and my grandparents were really involved. And I don't know, it just seemed like it was super easy. It seemed like my mom did everything. She was superwoman, and it didn't affect her at all that my dad traveled for a living. And now I know how much it really did affect her because I lived that life, and we talked about a lot of things. And, it wasn't cake for my dad either. He didn't like missing the stuff that he missed. He didn't like, the always on the road thing. It just, what I assumed would be super easy because I grew up in that world, and how it would just translate. Well, like, yeah, my dad, he's gone for 2 weeks or a week or whatever. It just seemed like it would make sense. But being on the other side of it, it's totally different from having it as a child to having it as a spouse and a wife. And I didn't know how to be a wife. I didn't know how to be a true partner. There was no what to expect when you're expecting book on how to be a wife. And although I think that book for having a child is greatly wrong, because there was a lot that happened that was not covered in that book. But no, I think
that's part of the problem is that I think, and that's the unfortunate thing about, I guess, at least the society we're in here and where we are. And I mean, marriage is marriage. I'm sure there's a lot of similarities all over the world, but I think there's this expectation that it is possible to figure out, or there is a defined set of characteristics associated with every relationship that you navigate. And that's how it is. Where in reality, everything is different.
Yes.
Every person's different. And if you are listening to this, or if you are somebody that you're listening to this and you have, it is okay, because that's not the reality.
No.
Every situation, no matter how similar it may seem, is completely different from the next. And it's just one of those things where that's where it's like, you have to almost drown out that noise and say, I'm not going to pay attention to that or try to compare ourselves to that. What works for us as individuals, right, wrong, or indifferent? And then how do we attack that and then create the most positive environment possible? We still don't do that 100% of the time by any means. However, it's just having the mindset that that's the goal. I think is that I think that's been the difference why we've been we have a lot more good days than we do bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
well, and like I went from being a full-time stay-at-home mom to then working part-time to working full-time to working part-time to now not really working. I mean, I do work part-time.
you have a full-time job.
But I'm now a full-time stay-at-home mom / homemaker / caregiver.
Yep.
Our family dynamic has changed, and me knowing what my strength is within that role is different. Being a stay-at-home mom and being a caregiver and being a homemaker are 3 completely, totally different entities. They are not one
and being
and
a
the
wife,
same.
4 different jobs.
Yeah. I think being a wife is by far my hardest job. Being a mom is probably second, and being a caregiver is probably third, and being a homemaker is definitely last on the totem pole. I do not know how to keep a home. I am not Martha Stewart, no matter how much I would like to be.
You do a great job, and we're definitely going to talk about that Martha Stewart documentary on Netflix, which I highly recommend anybody to watch that. It was very interesting and enjoyable.
Yes.
But we'll talk about that on the next episode.
Yeah. But I think I have found where I belong within being a quote unquote stay-at-home mom. And I think a lot of that is to do with the fact that I have so many different roles within that job now. When they were all at home, it was suffocating and I felt like I was drowning and I didn't feel like I had any room to breathe and I couldn't come up for air. And I hate saying that because I would do it all over again.
Sure.
And I would do it now.
Yeah.
And being a mom is by far the greatest thing in the world to me. And I would not trade it for anything. But it is hard and it was extremely hard. But now they have an identity. So that allows me to have an identity. And I think that's one thing that is extremely important to talk about. And I think another thing to talk about is that Americans do not value the core family dynamic.
What do you mean?
We don't take maternity leave, paternity leave.
Well, you're not saying
seriously.
Okay, so not America in the sense of like America. People, you're talking about like corporate America or just the workforce America in general. As far as
we don't make it easy as a culture to make the family a priority. Childcare is extremely hard to come by. Having a work-life balance is extremely difficult. And up until COVID, I don't think anybody realized just how much pressure was put on working moms and or stay-at-home parenting.
Sure.
Because when we were all thrown into a house together at one time with no option but for dads to work from home and moms to work from home, or moms to still be at home while husbands worked, and husbands got to see, okay, this is really what she's doing at home with the kids. She's not just sitting around watching TV all day.
I know that you
never
said that.
No,
or thought that.
You've never said that.
But I grew up with a mom who stayed at home. So I grew up with a stay-at-home mom. So like I understood, and maybe I didn't do a good job of, I'm sure I didn't do a good job. But of course, when you're a kid, you have a different perspective of what that role is. If my mom was alive, I'm curious what that conversation would be of some of the challenges that she had, doing that role, because it is a give everything and get nothing, in my opinion, role. I mean, I think we do a good job. Like try to do everything we can to recognize how important you are in the role. But
even your mom's side of being a stay-at-home mom versus mine, I think would be completely different because she was a military wife as well. And I am not. So,
I mean, honestly, it's a lot of the same challenges, the things you have to deal with, you've had to deal with the kids. I mean, granted, I work from home now, so we really tackle this stuff together. But back then, I can only imagine. But there was a lot she had to take on on a regular basis. It had really nothing to do with the military. The military was just, we moved a lot. So there's that added stressor and element.
And your
to
dad
that.
wasn't there a lot?
Dad didn't. No, that's not true. Dad, there was, well, I guess that is kind of true. There's 2 different tours of 18 months or so where he was in Okinawa. And then sometimes he would have to travel to do base inspections, but not really too much when we were kids. So when he was within the US, we were together, but he would be at work all day, and mom, really took care of everything in the household, from top to bottom. And that is a task that just anybody takes on. There's going to be wear and tear that comes with that I don't think anybody really realizes what they're signing up for when they take on that responsibility. Even if that's something they enjoy doing, there's still going to be that wear and tear regardless.
Right. Yeah. Well, and now we have an added member of our family. Your dad now lives with us, and we are his caregivers.
So I guess we should fast forward, right? We
we're bouncing all over the place.
No, we're fine. No, we're fine. But where we are now, right? We're we live in Kansas City. Obviously, we had mentioned that, but we've recently moved a few years ago into a bigger home than where we were living previously. We're
still in Kansas City in the Northland. Yeah.
My dad's I lived in Platte City, Missouri, which is a northern suburb. It's not very far at all if you're familiar with the Kansas City area. He was still living up there in the one home we've owned as a family since 2001. And unfortunately he had a stroke in the middle of the night and was, laying there for 12 plus hours. And unfortunately, those effects, it's all about timing of getting to the hospital in a good amount of time. And unfortunately, he had done, and here's the thing, he went to the doctor, remember? I mean, he went to the doctor, and the doctors didn't do anything wrong. They checked him, they said, hey, there's some stuff wrong with you, but you got a chest infection and those sorts of things. And then unfortunately it just happened. And thankfully he's okay as far as he's with us. And it's been a blessing because I've really enjoyed having him here. The kids love having him here. You and him have, he definitely prefers you to me.
No.
And that is very obvious. It ain't even close. It's like being with Connor all over again. Because Connor was a favorite. Yeah. Connor was a favorite son. There's no doubt about it. And now you're the favorite. You're the favorite son now. So that's how that worked out. I thought for sure I was on track here, but then sure enough, that went away really quick. The first couple of times I would have to take dad somewhere, maybe to therapy or to an appointment, on the very rare occasion that it happens, or if it's dinner time and you're at work. So when's Emily getting back? That's the famous question. Where's Emily? And okay. And when is she getting back? Yeah. So, but no, it's been an absolute blessing. But yeah, we've added that additional element to our. We've added another member to the family, and while it's been good, that's just another thing. Now you're helping with his care in regards to the doctors and physical therapy and the cardiologist and all those sorts of things. Yep. Yeah.
Laundry in his living space.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Which he's doing great.
He's
really trying to take care of being an independent military man. He does do a lot, but he's only able to do so much just because of his physical disability now. And so you really have stepped up and done that, man. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I would never seen us doing all of these things. And I think that's the important thing that I'm hopeful that is a message that's received, is that no matter where you're at, things will get better. Things will be different if you treat it with the respect in the right way. Right. And again, that's something we've definitely gone back and forth of doing well and not doing well. But ultimately I think we've done it more consistently well. And that's why we are where we are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
well, we know where to draw our own boundaries as individuals. And I think that helps us draw a boundary in every other aspect of our life. But again, I credit a lot of that to therapy.
I agree. And here's the other thing though, too.
And just growing up. Like, I feel like when we got married and started having kids that we were done growing up. Man, was I wrong. God,
a completely different.
I don't think I actually grew up until I think I still am growing up. I think I will always be growing up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they say you're kind of like a completely different person every 10 years of life. I feel like once you start adding these different life experiences that come in, like reliving, you kind of, with your kids as they grow up, you're kind of reliving your childhood at the same time. It's almost like you're exponentially growing in a sense, because you're kind of seeing multiple lives being lived out. It's almost like every 2 years, you kind of feel like a different person. That's how I at least for me, it's like, I think about just even a couple of years ago, what my mindset was about things, where we were at with things. 2 years ago, I was 376 pounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not very physically healthy, and just proxy that, not because I didn't want to, but because when I'm not taking care of myself to the best of my ability, how the hell am I taking care of you guys to the best of my ability? How am I taking care of a relationship to my best ability? How am I taking care of my job to the best of my ability? I'm not.
Right.
And that's just a reality for me. I'm not saying other people that are in this situation, that's what's happening. I'm just telling you, from me, I wasn't. And it wasn't until we just decided to make those choices together. And we definitely talk about our weight loss journey and our decision to get gastric bypass surgery and what all led to that and what that's turned into, because that was not an easy fucking road. So
no,
if anybody thinks that's some sort of easy fix, certainly we'll take you through that.
It is not a decision to be taken lightly. However, I would never tell somebody not to go through with it.
I know, absolutely. It's a tool. And I think, again, it's really getting an understanding of what it really is.
Yes.
If you think it is a fix to a problem, that is not. No. Is it a tool to help you get to somewhere you need to go in a world, in an environment where our food system's so poor that really you're kind of being forced into a situation, environment where you're likely going to be unhealthy? Then yeah, I think you're going to find a lot of success in it. And there's just so many other pieces to it.
And for me, it's almost heightened a few other health issues that I've had that I didn't necessarily
we wouldn't have known about. Yeah.
So like after having gastric bypass, we learned that I was celiac.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're living, I personally am living gluten-free. It led us down a path to get our daughter tested for something. And she is now gluten-free and dairy-free. And it is hard. It is hard AF.
Sometimes I feel like it's impossible. But I think that's partially also my attitude about it, though, too.
I don't hate it, but I don't love it.
I don't hate it. It's so hard to navigate those waters with the way our food, the way the FDA is, and the way food is, and how it's made here in this country.
Being addicted to food and like having a poor relationship with food, and then having to be hyper aware of everything that you're eating almost exacerbates it.
What companies can put in food, like you can say things are gluten free or things like that. And I know labels and those sorts of that stuff's getting better, but
yeah,
no, to your point, that's what it is. And I also think, not to just completely go off, not that we're going off topic, but just the general things that have made us better. I think also a big saving grace, at least for me, has been the relationships and the people that I've surrounded myself with, have allowed me to, is supported that growth that we're kind of talking about, right? You know what I mean?
We've naturally weeded out toxic in our life.
I mean, I don't think we really had that much to begin with. And I think the reason for, at least for me was, is because I just was lucky enough to find a family, a group of people at a young age that, and I test a lot of this to Dad. And I don't know if I've ever told our chosen family this, but it was my dad actually that really kind of, without like, he never like pushed it. It wasn't like we had multiple conversations. I just remember one conversation, and it was when I just moved here. I think maybe it was 4th or 5th grade. And I was a heavyweight wrestler at my age. And so I ended up having to wrestle older kids. And of course I wrestled Zach and Keith. They were older, and obviously they're good wrestlers, but my dad had figured out that their dad was the football coach and a wrestling coach. And I don't know how Dad had gotten to know who they were or about their family, but he really liked them. And I really respected, I don't know why I'm getting emotional about talking about my dad's opinion or respecting him, but I guess I am. But I always really respected my dad's opinion about other people. That's always been something that, I don't know why, has been something that's wired in me. But like when he said he really respected somebody, that was important to me. And then I kind of took that on.
Yeah.
And I remember him riding home from wrestling practice, him telling me that, their dad's a football coach and they're a really good family. His wife, their mom teaches history, and its dad's favorite subject was history and social studies. And that was something I was always good at. He was always very proud of that. So that was really important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember at a young age, before I even actually really truly started garnering up friendships with this family that kind of then became extended family,
Mm-hmm.
I knew that they were good. And it was something that I wanted to associate myself with. And then you fast forward multiple years and, you know, being around Zach and Keith and Jessica and Katie. And then of course their spouses are just some of the most amazing people. And they're just like us. They struggle and have their things too. But I think being around that level of positivity and a group of people that are always striving to be the best they can help me always continually have that mindset too. You know, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of baptized by fire, not to jump back to the beginning of our relationship, but it was our second date when we went to Keith's 30th birthday party at the house.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. So you got thrown in.
But we also
right
learned
away.
that like we were all connected somehow because I went to college with them.
Yeah. You went to the same college as Jess and Jeff and Kylie and Zach.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so,
but we didn't really like know each other. We knew of each other. Yeah.
But and I guess, and you'll hear me talk about these wonderful people probably on a regular basis because they're, besides Emily and my kids, they're pretty much, and my dad, but they're probably majority, and your parents, majority of my life. So,
yeah.
But yeah, no, they're fantastic human beings. So I love very dearly.
Definitely our chosen family.
They are. And, you know, godparents to our kids, majority of them. Mm-hmm. And
Colin is our executive producer.
Colin's our executive producer. Yeah, I guess I should say that too, right? This podcast wouldn't even be what it was or anything of this nature, the equipment, anything like that.
Would be more than an idea without Colin.
Although he picked a camera that didn't fucking.
He's going to tell us to go to the iPhone.
You know what? He did say, God damn it. You're right. You know what? I just made a complaint where I could kind of give Colin a hard time in a fun way. And you know what he's going to do? He's going to use that as goddamn ammo against me. That's exactly what's going to happen. He's going to be like, said the iPhone would be fine. I don't know why you just didn't get the iPhone 16. Can shoot just as good as this camera, even though I told you to get the camera.
Yeah.
But no, it's
we have an old version of the iPhone.
We
just
do.
So our listeners know.
Yep. So, with that being said, I think that it's a lot of those things. And as we talk about these things, obviously, you know, our episodes will be, I'm not regimented by any means.
No,
I want this to be a comfortable,
project.
Relaxing thing, but we'll definitely have at least cleaner segments and those sorts of things. And, you know, I will say, can I say something to you?
Oh, dear.
Can we just take the audience out of this for a second? As far as that we're talking to people, can I just say something to you?
Yes.
I would not feel the way I feel about myself, about my life, about our family, if it was not for who you are as a human being, who you are as a partner. And I know on a very fundamental level, I don't do a very good job of expressing that on a regular basis. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that don't, but you are absolutely everything to me and our family. And I'm just so appreciative of what we've built together, the good and also the bad and the very bad, all of those things. I'm so extremely proud that I got to do those and I'm still getting to do those things with you. And I look forward to doing this for a long time with you, regardless if people listen to it or not.
Yeah.
And I just want you to know how appreciative I am that you've allowed me to be your husband, and that you continue to choose me every day. And I will always continue to choose you. But just want to make sure that was said before we kind of wrapped everything up. And really thank you so much for going on this journey with me and always just being such a supportive human being. And I love you very much.
I love you.
You don't need to say anything. It's that's
if
not your thing.
I'm going to get something you all will learn pretty quickly is Sean is everything you would expect from Cam on Modern Family. And I am...
You're Mitch.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's just.
I'd like to think we're a hybrid of Phil and Claire.
Well, yeah, you're definitely the cool dad.
I wouldn't say, no. I'm not
And
saying I'm the cool dad. I'm just saying like the goofy kind of like dorky. And then there's like the dramatic, overly sensitive part of Cam with some kind of like, I guess, a little bit of foreboding confidence behind it. I like to think that we're a hybrid of those two couples.
Yes.
Personally.
And I am definitely bad cop, non-emotional. I don't cry. I'm dead inside.
I wouldn't know that's. I think you're saying those in a fun way, but like,
yeah, but like, I don't show.
You're not
a
very
emotion.
expressive person.
I'm a very emotional person.
Yeah, but like,
but I don't express it well.
Occasionally, when you're just looking, like when you're just looking at something, you look like you might be angry.
Oh, I have the most natural resting bitch face that there ever is. I don't know that I have a different face.
Yeah.
It's just, this is my face.
Yeah.
I don't know how to not have this as my face. But our kids do.
I love your face, but sometimes I do get confused and think you're mad. And even to this day, 12 years later, I'll still be like, you good? We good?
Totally
everything's fine. Yep. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
Well, as soon as here's a problem. As soon as I get comfortable and be like, oh, that's just mom's face, which I wouldn't say that to our children, but it's just her face. In my mind, I'm
they
like,
say it.
That's just her face.
Yeah. They say
you're actually mad about something.
Yeah. Well, you know,
it's confusing. So,
or is it elusive?
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know.
But they do find it weird that you cry in almost every movie and I don't cry at all.
You think it's weird that they think that?
No, they think it's weird.
Oh, they think it's weird. Oh, yeah. I mean, sure. Why not? I mean, I can only be how I can only be. And I don't know what it is, but usually movies, I mean, I love movies more than anything.
Do you remember, was it last year or the year before? I think it was last year when Maeve did her Mother's Day thing at school. And she wrote that little bitty card and it was like, what is mom's favorite things? And it's like, what's mom's favorite color? Black. What's mom's favorite thing to do? Drink coffee. What is mom's favorite food? Coffee. What does mom like to do? Anything that's as dark as her coffee or something like that. And then it was like, what's one thing that reminds you of your mom? Black. Just like the teacher, maybe it was her first year of preschool, but the teacher was like, is everything? Oh, okay. I'm like, yep. They just, apparently I am very dark and she knows that. I don't know. It was spot on. Like she got me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes sense. Yeah. I know where we're at. Do we want to save the time to talk about the election maybe in the next episode, or do we want to touch on anything? I mean, it is the day of.
It is
there
election
anything?
Day.
How are you? I mean, I guess just really quick, how are you feeling?
I am extremely anxious.
Yeah. I mean, there's really no polls or anything closing now. It's still for another 4 hours, I think. Those sorts of things. Here's what I will say.
No breaking news.
Yeah. How about this? I guess I can just say, I guess my hope is that for tomorrow, that regardless what happens, everybody's safe. Everybody has, at least felt like they were able to participate in the process if they wanted to, and they were impactful as possible, and that they're kind to each other, even if they don't agree with each other. That's my hope for tomorrow, I guess. I don't know what
I've seen what could happen. I've read a lot about how what happened previously happened. And my concern is that it's going to replay itself. My concern is that it's going to be bigger than it was the first time around.
You're talking about January 6th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My concern isn't necessarily I am concerned about who will become president. My concern is mostly the long-term effects. Yes, it is 4 years. Yes, I will acknowledge whoever becomes president as president. I've never not done that. I won't agree with certain things, but they are the president of the United States. I have a sign in my front yard for the first time ever in our life. I don't think I've ever publicly stated who I voted for in this capacity. Like my friends and family know who I've always voted for. And I will say I voted for Kamala. I cannot, as a Christian, as a woman, as a mother, as a Christian, vote for Donald Trump. I cannot look at my daughters and say that I agree with that man and what he wants to do. I cannot look at my son and know that his future wife or partner or daughters or anyone would have to possibly be subject to what he wants to do and or what he believes. I am Catholic, but I am pro-choice, but I am pro-life. But there is a huge difference, in my opinion, of what is pro-life and pro-choice. Pro-choice and pro-life and pro-abortion are all three completely different things. To me, pro-life means from conception to death and everything in between. You're going to make somebody have a baby. Are you going to help support that child? Are you going to have the resources available to raise it, feed it, clothe it, shelter it, educate it? Where most people, I think, of pro-life is not having an abortion. To me, that's not even in the same category. I personally have my opinion on abortion, and I don't feel like it's my job or anyone's job to tell another person what to do with their body. At the end of the day, we all have a moral compass, and whatever falls within that moral compass is your choice and your choice only. You do with that what you want. It shouldn't be a discussion. It shouldn't be up for a vote. Knowing that all three of our children are fertility children, which means we used fertility treatment to get all of them. And to know, I'm going to get really emotional. Oh dear. To know that somebody could take that away from another person or tell them that that was wrong, or knowing that the miscarriages that I've had where we've needed help medically to complete them would be considered a crime. The pain.
Well, you just wouldn't have been able to get the care in certain states and certain, we wouldn't have been able to get that care, which could have affected your health, which we've heard there has been documented cases as far as what people have had to deal with now that it's been a state decision since the overturning of Roe v. Wade. You're absolutely right. Yep.
But to know that everything that I went through was such a personal, painful, intimate experience, to then also know that my children would have to go through something, but have it be, I don't know how to explain it. Women's medical rights should not be for anyone else to decide but that woman and her doctor.
I agree. I don't even know if it's an issue. This may people may be upset with me saying this. I don't really think it's an issue that men should be able to vote on.
No.
I mean, maybe that's a hot take. I don't, having no fucking perspective of what it is like to have that ability to create life, have a child made, or just be a woman in general. Like, I don't think it is responsible to assume that we, being males, should have the type of effect that we do on what women choose to do with their body, or at least from that regard, have some sort of medical oversight of the medical oversight of policy creation, at least. You know what I mean? We're talking about people that don't have the medical background or really the understanding to, or the perspective, in my opinion, to that are a majority of, I mean, there's women obviously in the Republican Party that, and there's women that are pro-life, meaning that they don't, they agree with these policies that, because we're not just talking about because what we're talking about is abortion used as like a form of birth control, as opposed to there's 10 million different reasons why somebody may need to get an abortion. And it's not just that. And then even if it is a form of birth control, there's 10 million reasons why somebody would do that aren't just, it's a selfish endeavor of not being responsible or accountable for their actions. And they're just trying, you know what I mean? I think that's like how that comes off. We're talking about a fringe example, and you're basing a whole set of policies on that one specific example, and you're not caring about the other gajillion scenarios that could occur.
Right. There's too much that can happen under an umbrella
in between. So I mean, obviously that's a huge factor for me. But at the same time too, I just, for me, I'm saying this for me, because this is obviously a very sensitive subject for a lot of people. And I think when we start saying the things we're saying, I think people can construe that as we're saying, if you don't agree with what I'm saying, you're a terrible person.
No,
you're absolutely able to have your own opinion. If you're not causing people harm, for me, like if you're causing people harm, then I think you're not a great person. I'll say that. But if it's just your own opinion, and because that's what this is an opinion. If that's your opinion and that's, you vote how you want to vote, that is your absolute given right, and I respect it and support it. As soon as you get outside of that and it becomes harmful or those sorts of things, that's this whole thing. But that in no way is a derogatory remark on anybody who disagrees with this opinion. So I'll start with that. For me, I don't know how you'd look at these two candidates. And I'm saying this from a perspective of a husband. I guess I would consider financially lower middle class to lower middle class.
A lower middle class.
Well, that's more based on fact of mathematical fact. So I just don't know off the top of my head what that designation is based on our salary we make, but it is somewhere in the middle class realm.
Okay.
Is all I'm saying. That's not really an opinion based thing. There's actual math associated with that. But what I'm saying is that I don't know how you look at these two candidates, and if your goal, I guess at the end of the day, is to have, I guess that's where you start, right? My goal is that this is not going to be something where either candidate is going to come in and fix what we have going on in this country. We're not a terrible country, but we're an unhealthy country. No different from somebody who's out of shape or has some sort of health issues or haven't been taking care of themselves. And just like an individual, you don't just wake up one day and start running marathons. It takes time and effort and consistent practice. So whoever is going to be elected, for me, when I was looking at this, it really revolved around what direction do we need to go and what's the type of person do we need? And I think we do need somebody who, even though I'm not 100%, I'm never going to be, here's the thing. We're never going to be 100% on, we shouldn't be 100% on any individual politician, regardless of being Republican or Democrats policies.
Gosh. No.
But
you need to be well educated in who you're voting for on the policies that they are.
And you're not going to agree with all of them. I think there's things, from a middle class standpoint, I think both sides, I think there's some things we could be doing better to support the middle class, because from a tax perspective, that's who's supporting, the daily in and outs of the country moving forward. However, it's to me, it was a very simple choice of a human being who's wanting to work with both sides and make things better and really truly seems to care. Doesn't mean they don't have their own individual aspirations. It doesn't mean there's not selfish reasons for jumping into office the way they do, but wants to care for it. I can't personally, for me, look my kids and you in the eyes. I don't even think it would have to come to that. I didn't need that motivation. Actually, I don't even know what the fuck I'm saying. I feel like I'm trying to justify something without needing to justify. I didn't need that motivation. It was pretty fucking clear from the moment go for me during this whole process since 2016 that I do think every politician, you wouldn't get into this game if there wasn't some sort of individual accolade or gain you get from it. But there's definitely people that take the role much more seriously as an act of service versus people that don't.
Right.
I think Kamala takes her role as seriously as an act of service. I think the things she wants to focus on, which is the health rights, working with middle class, but also working with the Republican Party, because we can't get anything done if these two sides can't figure out how to work together. And I'm sorry, the Republican side could care, at least with the rhetoric I get for the most part, except for some of the Republicans that are basically ostracized by their own party. They're not, that is not a goal, is to work with the other side. The goal is to just get full control and then roll from there.
But I don't think there is a true Republican Party anymore.
There's Republicans.
There's Republicans.
Well, that's what, but I mean,
but right now, I don't think we have a Republican Party. We have a Trump Party. Yeah. And I think the Republican Party has lost its morals and its values. And I think they need to rediscover what it is that they stand for. Well, and my hope is if he loses, that they take the time to return to what it is that Republicans really, truly stand for. Because I don't think they all know.
Well, we say this as like a Republican Party. That's a group of politicians that are associated with the party, but it's people that keep voting them in. So, until people figure out kind of, and maybe that's their motive. I mean, whatever they bring to the table, maybe that's their motivation. But I'm always going to continually try to vote for people that it isn't going to just better, individually better, specifically only things about me. I want our country to be overall better.
Yes.
I want the brightest and best and smartest to come into our country and feel included. Yes. We have enough. Here's the other thing. We can talk all day long about national debt, what we spend our money on. We are a superpower in this world. We print money. There's no fucking reason why a kid can't get free school lunch. Say we owe another $1 trillion in. I don't care, because at the end of the fucking day, we spend the amount of money we spend on the military and the amount of money in those. That's fine. I'm good with all those things. There's no reason why we don't have better healthcare. There's not a good reason why those things aren't in place, other than it is not important for the individuals that are fighting it. And I'm sorry, a majority of those individuals fighting it are on that side of history right now. And that's just the way it is. And I'm not siding with it. I respect you if that's what you want to do. I in no way think, this is my opinion about things. This is the way I live my life. This is how I want to, this is what contribution I want to make on the world. That's where I'm voting. And I think I'm voting for the best human being in this campaign. And just like any other job that you walk into, guarantee you, it isn't the fucking necessarily the best and the brightest. It's that gets the best things done or has the most impactful experience at a job. Whether you're sweeping floors, it's how they interact and treat individuals. Yeah. You start there and you build from there. The ability to work with people to get things done in a positive manner. Mm-hmm. And there's not a bit of me that would ever think that he would do that better than her.
No.
So that's all I have to say about that. I mean, I don't know. It's just one of those things. It's such a charged
whatever
topic.
is going to lead. I want to be I am proud to be American. I am proud to live here, but I want my children to continue to grow up and be proud to live here and to know what our country really stands for. And I want them to continue to grow in a politically progressive country.
Yeah. Well, it's easy just to go and dismantle everything and take everything over and just make it whatever you want. Right. Yeah. It's actual work to try to get on the same page with people and build something. It takes work to try to take something negative and make it a positive. It takes work to take care of people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that just don't want to do that. They just want what they want. And I think that he has created an avenue to say, if you go with me, you get it. And I understand the appeal to that. I do that. But that's not fucking life. That is not how the fuck you get things done. And that's not how you make a positive impact on this world. It's not how you become the best you possibly can be. And I have a fundamental issue with that way of doing things, but that's my own personal thing. And again, this is my opinion. This is not fact by any means, but I would never vote for that motherfucker over my dead body.
No, I found it interesting when somebody asked him if he had any regrets, and he said no. And I was like, well, of course not. But part of me wonders part of me really does wonder if
I should have said if my life depended on it.
This is like a legit facade for him. And maybe one day he would look back and have some regrets on the things he said and done.
No.
But part of me really does think this is the legacy that he wants, because the amount of history that he's put himself in multiple avenues.
I mean, I think the dangerous thing is I do think he truly thinks he's right with how he's doing it and what he's doing. That's the thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't think there's this like, I think people are giving him a lot more credit than what is deserved here. I think he just truly believes what he's saying. And I think there's just a lot of things that are going on up there in his mind that he believes is the reality. The way he thinks, whenever he thinks it, whether he's jumping back and forth, that's truth for him. There's plenty of people out there that lie and say things and they really believe what they're saying, even though they, subconsciously or deep down, they know it's not true. It doesn't matter. It's their reality. They've created the reality. So anyway, I feel like that's a bad thing about talking about that stuff. Because you do no matter what you get negative. It doesn't matter because it's just such a charged thing. Yeah. So the benefit is that we're at an end of the journey as far as leading up to the presidential election. It's
been a long one.
I do look forward to talking with you about what the end results being on our next episode, because we will definitely need to touch on that. And then hopefully we find that, everything was safe and smooth and
I think that's my other biggest concern
appropriately
is
and
the
transition
safety.
correctly.
It doesn't need to go violent one way or the other for either.
We grew up in a time where, regardless if people had major differences, abortion hasn't gone anywhere as far as being an issue that just a policy issue that has gone on politically since that has became a medical procedure.
Right. That's what I mean.
You know what I mean? Like these things have always been here, but we've been able to treat each other with respect. But I mean, it has nothing to do with that.
We don't need to be on the verge of civil war.
No, I agree. But that's people doing it. It's not policies. These things are just, the gunpowder. Somebody has to put fucking fire to that to make that shit go. You know what I mean? And so that's the thing. We have a personal responsibility as citizens of this country, as fathers, mothers, brothers, friends, whatever it may be that you are, the role you value most, to handle this the right way. And handling this the right way is you go and vote, and then you respect the results of the vote, because it has been proven.
Yeah, because you've already done your thing.
It's been proven legally that there's things that haven't been tampered with. There's a system in place. Elections have been elections. Let's just go through the process and be respectful of each other. And then let's support our next president elect. Yeah. I just hope we're on the right side of history. Anyway, but
you always want to be on the right side of history.
Yeah. Well, I just feel
who said that?
Hamilton? Again, it's Hamilton. I don't know. I just think, I'm hopeful for our result, but I'm not going to do anything to cause anybody harm if I don't get the result that I feel like should happen.
There's
regardless.
nothing to do.
No.
Like, we've already made our opinion. We've already made our vote. We've given our voice to the situation.
And that's it. That's what it's got to be.
That's really all we can do.
Yep. And I hope that everybody else, I was going to say, I hope everybody else can take that mindset. So
yeah, this has been really fun.
It has been. I really appreciate, thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me again. And we're going to plan on, continuing getting episodes of the show out. Eventually we'll have a full recorded show that we'll put on our YouTube channel. Yeah, we actually even have a website as well. dowehavето.com. So certainly go out there and do that, because we are going to have a segment. I should have talked about this a little bit more, but we are going to have a segment where we will take, we have an info form. If you go to information on the website, you'll be able to fill in if you want to ask any questions, if you'd like our opinion on anything. We love listening to podcasts ourselves, and we love when they take questions or give their opinions on stuff. We would absolutely love to do that. So if you have anything fun, or even if it's serious that you want to throw out there and would like just us to talk about, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I can certainly tell you what Emily and I would do. And then you can take it for there, whether it's a bad idea or it's a great idea. If you want to give us feedback on the show, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, feel free to do that. But it's dowehavето.com. And we'll eventually be out on as well. Shortly, we'll be out on Instagram, Facebook. We have a YouTube channel. That YouTube channel is on our website as well. And again, it's dowehavето.com. So, but no, thank you everybody for listening. Look forward to providing you more episodes, and hope to chat soon.
I love you too.
Wake up, I'm about to shake up every little thing, show you all that we can be. Come dance in my glow.